Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, classmates, Doc Mark and Doc Marge. So I am Alejandro A. Ablao II, MSMCB minor in NVSI student, and I am here to report pollution prevention and cleaner production in the mining industry in the Philippines. So to start with, here is my topic outline. First, I'll be discussing the introduction. Under this is the mining industry, the effects of heavy metals to different life forms, the laws and the rules that would govern mining in the Philippines, specifically the environmental laws in mining and the objective of the report. Second are the concepts of pollution prevention and cleaner production in the mining industry in the Philippines. So under pollution prevention is the environmental degradation and pollution caused by mining, holistic approach by large-scale mining firms in mitigating the impacts of mining in the environment, integrative legal policy and management tools in pollution prevention strategy. And next would be the cleaner production. Under these are the waste management that is applied. These are the environmental technologies and the system approach for greener, eco-efficient mineral resource extraction and sustainable land use management, or the SAGES framework. And the third part would be the key takeaways of this report and the references of my report. So in the mining industry, the Philippines, it is endowed with mineral-rich resource like copper, chromite, nickel, and the gold. And it ranks 22nd in the world's gold-producing countries last 2017. So the Philippines mining industry is one of the sources of livelihood of Filipinos that would contribute to to attaining further economic growth. Mining industries, they are located mostly in the upland areas in the country, like Itogon, Benguet, Juklo, Compostela Valley, and other parts of Caraga region and others. And mining industry, it can be classified into small scale and the large scale mining. In figure 1, it shows you the small scale mining in Gumatdang village, Itogon, Benguet, and this uses low-end technology or less equipment, and often it would rely on the indigenous technique and physical labor. In contrast with the small scale, we have the large scale mining in Tuba, Benguet, which involves the use of heavy and highly automated machinery. So the Philippines mining industry, waste management, it is a critical issue to be addressed. And this mine waste, it contaminates the soil, air, water due to hazardous use of chemicals that would eventually will threaten the natural ecosystem dynamics. So if mine tailings and waste water are left unutilized for years in both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems, it could lead to adverse effects that would span across the trophic webs from soil to microorganisms to plants to animals and to humans. Hazardous chemicals like we have the arsenic, cadmium, chromium, cobalt, copper, cyanide, iron, lead, mercury, nickel, silver, and zinc. These are predominant heavy metals in mine tailings that can be toxic at higher concentration to humans and other life forms. So what are the effects of heavy metals to different organisms? Since these metals, they are toxic and non-biodegradable in nature, they could enter the food chain via bioaccumulation and biomagnification processes in microorganisms, then onward up to the plants, animals, and the humans. So when these chemicals are present on our drinking water, it causes serious health damage to humans, such as anemia, brain damage, diarrhea, hypertension, epigastric pain, lung tumors, vomiting, and other heavy metal-related diseases. And the symptoms are expressed by the human body when heavy metal concentrations are above the threshold. So for the plants, the effects of high levels of heavy metals in soils, it would reduce the crop productivity because of the inhibitory effects on different plant tissues or organ systems' physiological processes. In aquatic life forms that are contaminated with heavy metal, it could lead to alteration of the food webs and reduction in the biodiversity in the ecosystem. Microorganisms, they are said to be potent bioremediators that are capable of removing metals on a dilute solution through their active or passive uptake mechanisms. So heavy metal concentrations above the threshold levels can be detrimental on microbial communities and on its vital function. So there are several factors that would influence the effects of heavy metal concentration on microbes, which are concentration on chelating agents, pH, organic matter, and speciation. So this would alter the biomass, the cycling of the elements, diversity of microbial communities, and causes inhibitory effect on the microbes via blocking the essential functional groups, displacing metal ions, or modifying conformations of biological molecules. So in spite of this, some metals like cobalt, copper, zinc, and nickel, they are vital cofactors for enzymes, metalloproteins, and nevertheless, your heavy metal at higher concentrations, they can affect the growth, morphology, and biochemical activities of microorganisms that could result on decreased biomass and diversity. So the mining industries in the Philippines, they are governed by laws and regulations in large-scale mines that are pertinent to the legal compliance as shown in Table 1. But for small-scale mining, it is governed by the Republic Act 7076, and also known as the People's Small Scale Mining Act of 1991, which rationalizes viable small-scale mining activities in order to generate more employment opportunities and thereby providing an equitable sharing of the nation's wealth and natural resources. Table 2, it shows the compendium of laws, rules, and regulations in small-scale mining industry and in the Philippines. So last March 4, 2022, DENR released an administrative order AO number 2022-04 entitled Enhancing Biodiversity Conservation and Protection in Mining Operations that would aim to provide adequate measures for responsible mining towards ensuring biodiversity conservation and protection, including progressive and final rehabilitation of mined out areas. So it also aims to minimize negative impacts on biodiversity and ensure its conservation of biodiversity, thereby promoting the sustainable development and utilization of the country's natural and mineral resources for the benefit of the present and future generations. That would be the DAO 2022-04 at page 2. And there are also several measures included in the DAO 2022-04 that requires mining contractors, permittees, and permit holders to include biodiversity measure. So this includes biodiversity assessment, integration of biodiversity conservation measures in awareness plan, economic valuation of ecosystem services, planting of nurse trees that are indigenous or native for the vegetation reestablishment, and water quality monitoring. So these instruments would help minimize negative impacts of mineral extraction on biodiversity while ensuring biodiversity conservation. So highlighted on these tables 1 and 2 are environmental laws in the mining industry in the Philippines that has a direct involvement on pollution prevention. So we have the RA 7942, DAO 2098, the PD number 1586, RA 6969, DAO 2004-36, RA 9275 and 8749, and RA 9003 for the large scale mining industry. For the small scale, we have the RA 6969, RA 7076, RA 7942, RA 9275, DOW 1997-30, and PD 1586. So what are the objective of the report? So mining activities and waste that it generates can disturb the nutrient dynamics in soils, resulting in alterations in the chemical, physical, and microbiological processes. Therefore, also on the water. No? So therefore, it is important to determine the geochemical, physical-chem, and microbiological analysis of the overall the overall environmental impact of mining. So to add, it is also imperative to analyze the ways on how to prevent pollution in the mining activities and lead to cleaner production in the mining industry. So these are the specific objectives of this report. So first, it is to provide an overview on the conduct of pollution prevention in the mining industry in the Philippines that focuses on environmental degradation and pollution cases, holistic approaches, in mitigating impacts of mining in the environment, legal policy and management tools in pollution prevention strategy in mining. And second is to provide an overview on the conduct of cleaner production in mining industry in the Philippines that focuses on environmental technologies or strategies used in mining and the SAGES framework. So pollution prevention in terms of mining, it is defined by the US EPA 2022, which is the maximum feasible reduction of the quantity and or toxicity of all waste generated at a mining operation. So it involves the judicious use of resources through source reduction, energy efficiency, reuse of input materials during production and beneficiation, and the reduced water consumption. So one approach to identify suitable pollution measures is the pollution prevention hierarchy. Examples of which are the resource reduction. So this includes improvement of technology use, mining process modification, substitution of products, and prevention of spills. In another example is reuse. So in reusing of mine water and tailings, conveyance piping in a beneficial manner. Another example is recycling or reclamation. So this is reconditioning or reprocessing of usable materials from tailings, scrap metals, solvents in a different degree of processes. So for a paramount pollution prevention, it should be implemented via opportunity assessment involving comprehensive review of the practices of waste management to identify pollution potential opportunities. So these are examples of environmental degradation and pollution cases that happen in the Philippines. So the study of Giganton et al. Of 2020 titled The Impact of Abandoned Mining Facility Waste on the Aquatic Ecosystem of the Mogpog River in Marinduque, Philippines. So it concluded that there is a difficulty in regaining the water quality in Mogpog River, Marinduque over several years of mine waste deposition. So this one, it is the acid mine drainage in the upstream part of the river is affecting the heavy metal speciation, thereby local communities has the potential risk on heavy metal exposure. So the researchers, they documented the mine waste pollution present in Bokbok, Mogpog River, which are the milky white colloid suspensions and deposition of the rust within the river bank. So as shown in figures 4A, 4B, and 4C. So the major mining impacts on the quality of water, acid mine drainage, contamination by heavy metals, erosion and sedimentation, heavy metal leaching, and processing of chemical pollution. So these can lead to unusable water. Heavy metals like your arsenic, cadmium, copper, lead, and mercury, they are leached out, which would then be carried out by acidic water and released from acid mine drainage that could be deposited on land, which is then acted by bacteria or be methylated. So the methylated heavy metal in organic form, it can be taken up by living organisms, which would then be deposited onto their tissues and would interfere on the normal metabolic processes of the organism. So aside from the case of Gigantone et al. 2020, um, there are other environmental degradation cases. Like for this one, the McCropper mines in Marinduque last March 1996, they would spilled out 3 to 4 million metric tons of mine tailings into the Makulapnit-Boak River system, which causes floods that displaces 400 families, evacuated 20 villages, contaminating the drinking water and destroying irrigation channels, leading to the declaration of Boak River as unusable. So last October 2005, the Lafayette Mining Corporation's Rapu-Rapu Mines in Albay, it was accountable for the cyanide spills and pollution of heavy metals and acid mine drainage, causing fish kills in the Rapu-Rapu Island and adjacent municipalities in eastern Sorsogon. The Philex Pacdal mines in Benguet last August 2012, they spilled out 20 million metric tons of mine tailings that drains into the Balog and Agno river systems that affects the San Roque Dam that is used in agricultural irrigation and power generation. So these are some of the few environmental damage cases that have been documented in the Philippines. And on top of that, other problems caused by mining are eviction of our indigenous people from their own land, imminent danger to people, and destruction of agriculture, biodiversity, coral reefs, and the mangroves. So here on this slide shows you holistic approaches in mitigating impacts of mining in the environment. So although there are some environmental degradation and pollution cases that are caused by different mining industries, there are also other mining industries that would take part on mitigating the impacts of mining in the environment. So some large scale mining industries in the Philippines advance its goals, steps, and best practices towards environmental protection. So the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines 2021, they reported this, and which comprises of large-scale mining firms taking holistic approaches to mitigate impact of mining in the environment. An example of which is the Carmen Copper Corporation in Toledo City, Cebu. So they collected, conserve, and manage its water flows at the mine. They would invest in desilting activities that would increase the water holding capacity and storage capacity of their dam. They installed settling ponds and water treatment facilities. They regularly sample their water. They reuse the recovered mined water for its operation. They also encourages its stakeholders and nearby communities to participate in the cleanup drive. They quarterly monitor their air quality in compliance with RA number 8749, and they manage its tailings by landlocking and securing it on a containment pond through Biga Tailings Storage Facility. Another example is the Philippine Gold Processing and Refining Corporations, or the PGPRC in Aurora, Masbate. So here they conducted project to rehabilitate coral reefs, deploying 2,200 reef balls and planted 30,000 coral fragments in the marine protected area of Colorado Point in Barangay Tigbao, Aurora, Masbate. The FCF Minerals Corporation, which is the sister company of PGPRC in Quezon, Nueva Vizcaya. So they have this run-run projects, water management, that targeted the reclamation of water and minimize water extraction and discharge. They also uses return water system technology that decants water from its residual storage impoundment facility and reuse it on its operations. Siltation ponds and flow-through barriers were also constructed in Solong River. Advocates algae study and installed ultrasonic algae controller, vermicomposting, and the project also uses chemical and biological detoxification processes for the treatment of cyanide and derivatives. The Philex mines in Tuba Benguet, they manage efficient water consumption and regular water quality monitoring on surface and drinking water. So they also conducted air quality monitoring quarterly in compliance with the RA 8749 or the Philippine um, Air Act of 8749, and rehabilitate of land resources by planting seedlings in plantations in decommissioned sites. Another example of mining industry is the Lepanto Consolidated Mining Company or the LCMC in Mankayan, Benguet. So pollution control facility is the tailings storage facility 5A, where series of treatment processes conducted like bioremediation, detoxification, slaking, and settling ponds. They also sample and regular monitor their discharge through a third party. They utilize engineered sanitary landfill to contain, they built engineered sanitary landfill to contain residual waste generated from households and nearby barangays. The Agata Mining Ventures Inc., which is a subsidiary of TVI Resource Development Philippines Inc., in Habonga, Santiago, and Tubay in Agusan del Norte. So what they did is that they convert the mined out areas to ecotourism sites, reforestation activities, transformative rehabilitation or revegetation using thematic landscaping, and they produces organic soil fertilizers through livestock waste on its own farm. So here are the pictures of the different approaches of the large scale mining firms to mitigate the impacts of mining in the environment. So figures A to O of figure 5. So here in figure A is the Malubog Dam, which is privately owned and operated by the Carmen Copper Corporation. B is the cleanup drive and awareness campaign by the CCC. C is for the reef balls and coral fragments planted by PGPRC. Figure D is the water sampling at the Salangan River conducted by DENR and EMB. Letter E, figure E is the aquatic biota monitoring by the Ranruna project. Figure F, construction of the residual storage impoundment of the FC Mineral Inc. in Quezon, Nueva Vizcaya. Figure G, Philex Pacdal project air quality monitoring. H is the Lepanto mining tailings dam. Letter I, engineered sanitary landfill of LCMC. Figure M, and the others. No, figure M, Felix Bulawan project, Sunset, and the figure O, Sagisan seedlings as part of transformative rehabilitation project of the Agata. So here is the integrating legal policy and management tools in pollution prevention. So the Environmental Law Institute in 1999, it provides a national comprehensive framework that can be incorporated into the legal and policy tools that would promote pollution prevention in the mining sector. So the framework provides legal and policy approaches in different phases of mining, including exploration, active mining operations, and mining closure. So this promotes pollution prevention, and it identifies the potential sources and opportunities of pollution prevention, specific legal policy and management tools, and special concerns to be taken into consideration in implementing the framework to address the mining issues. So using the proposed framework, they define source reduction, recycling, treatment, and secure disposal. So here are the definitions. So here in table 4 shows you the integrating the legal policy and management tools in pollution prevention strategy in different phases of mining. So this is the exploration phase of mining. Here are the potential sources and types of pollutions, like for example, disturbance of land surface, creation of air or water pollution with naturally occurring materials, as well as with mineral materials introduced to the exploration site during drilling and related activities. So what are the pollution prevention opportunities is minimizing the area disturbed to that needed for exploration, plugging of wells and drill holes, etc. And what are the legal policy and management tools is to planning to assure that disturbances are those needed to locate and characterize the ore body while minimizing impacts on adjacent lands and waters, reclamation requirements, requirements for financial assurance. In active mining operations, what are the potential sources and types of pollution? So production of acid, drainage and mobilization of metals, mobilization and release of other naturally occurring toxic substances, and the others. And in pollution prevention opportunities, so we have here the careful characterization of the ore and waste rock characteristics to determine what to disturb and how to handle and dispose of the disturbed materials. The use of cleaner processes, better design of processes to reduce the quantity of toxic substances used in the beneficiation processes, and other opportunities. And legal policy and management tools. So we have the EIA to identify the potential impacts of a project before it proceeds. Regulatory standards for prevention, financial incentives, and financial assurances, and the others. So during closure phase of mining, what are the potential sources and types of pollution? So we have here the exposure of materials in the pits and waste rock entailing disposal areas that may require perpetual care. Acid drainage after conclusion of mining, air pollution after completion of mining. So what are the pollution prevention opportunities to be undertaken? Isolation and containment of acid-producing materials, rinsing the contamination and covering of spent ores and tailings, coupled with drainage controls to prevent migration and contamination of contaminants remaining in place after closure, and others, like for example, monitoring and maintenance. And what are the legal policy and management tools? So we have the use of EIA and planning and permitting requirements, incorporating standards for closure, implementation of environmental management system to help operators carry out closure obligations, and others, as you can see on this table. So for cleaner production in the mining sector, cleaner production, it is defined as an innovative production approach that applies an integrated preventative environmental strategy to process products and services so as to increase resource efficiency and reduce environmental pollution, as defined by Gutierrez Aguilar in et al. 2017, Matos et al. 2018, Malinowski et al. 2016, as cited in Liang et al. 2019. So here are some waste management tools or environmental technologies that are applied in the Philippines setting. No? So in the Philippines, last 2009, scientists and students from the UP Diliman College of Engineering Department of Mining, Metallurgical and Minerals Engineering, or DMME, created a system of methods on gold or copper extraction which is eco-friendly and non-hazardous. So together with DOST CERT, UPD conducted a project titled the UP DOST Field Testing of the Integrated Gold Copper Mineral Processing Plant. So they aim to work out an efficient method in customizing and implementing the technology fitted in the mineral processing plants in Itogon, Benguet, Jose Panganiban, Camarines Norte, Cabadbaran, Agusan del Norte, and Nabunturan, Compostela Valley, small-scale mining. So the four major components of the pilot plants that they did are the sampling and characterization and quality control, beneficiation, including size reduction and concentration, extraction and refining, and disposal of tailings and treatment of waste. And to accomplish this, the pilot plant must be built consisting of pre-deployment activities, including coordination with community, gathering and testing of ore samples, and conduction of seminars or workshops. And next is the involvement of construction and installation of equipment with precautionary measures. And next to do additional testing. And lastly is to figure out where the output is to be sold and monitored on its operations. Another example of waste management that is being applied in nickel laterite mining sector is the multi-R approach, which is a parallel to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So the valorization of the nickel laterite mine waste, which are the silt and low-grade ore, is being reused, recycled, and reprocessed as shown in this figure 6. And this is used to produce high-value products, which while reducing mining waste and increasing eco-efficiency in the mining industry. So here in this slide shows you the system approach for greener eco-efficient mineral resource extraction and sustainable land use management, or the SAGES framework, by Promentilla et al. Of 2021. And this is used to address problems in the mining sector in the Philippines. So the SAGES framework, it integrates multiple actors' perspectives with alongside value chain that would guarantee activities that are interdisciplinary and participatory by design that would offer innovative and sustainable solution in the mining sector. So this is a unifying framework that would support Philippine mining sector's transition into an economically sustainable, environmentally sensitive, and socially responsible one. Instantaneously using this framework, it can empower host communities, improve rehabilitation programs, offer additional benefits to stakeholders, and reduce waste generation. So to conclude this report, here are the key takeaways. So this report, it provides an overview of the pollution prevention and cleaner production in the Philippines mining sector. So it was also noted that the mining operations are governed by laws, rules, and regulations that must be implemented properly and followed by the proponents and stakeholders. Specific environmental laws are there to serve as guide for the mining firms and to be strictly implemented to mitigate impacts in the environment. So likewise, environmental degradation and pollution cases that happen in the Philippines are also reported. So these are proof that there are still lapses and gaps in implementing pollution prevention in the mining sector. So the researcher would also like to recognize and applaud the best practices of different large-scale mining firms that would take one step ahead towards holistic approach to mitigate the mining impacts in the environment. Legal policy, and management tools in pollution strategy integrated in the different phases of mining, the SAGES framework, and environmental technologies are there to facilitate changing of culture in the mining industry that is essential in sustainably managing the Philippines' mineral resources without compromising the future mining land use and be able to minimize mining waste prior to discharge. Simultaneously, it would also support the necessities and goals of the proponent, communities, and stakeholders. So altogether, with the principles of circular economy, would address the problems in mine waste management holistically. And here are the references that I've used in this report. And thank you for listening on this report. So once again, I am Alejandro A. Ablao II, reporting the pollution prevention and cleaner production in the mining industry in the Philippine setting. Thank you, and God bless us all.